Aloha everyone, my name is Alessandro and this is the Temple of Surf, the podcast. We'll give you full access to the best surfers, skaters, shapers, surfboard collectors, shop owners in the world. Discover with me their stories, the greatest successes, amazing behind the scenes, and much more. Aloha! Welcome to the 19th episode of the Temple of Surf, the podcast. Today's guest is from California, the queen of nose riding, longboarder and founder of Kassia Surf, Kassia Meador. Let's discover more about her, surf, surfboards, and much more. Hi Kassia, welcome to the show. Where are you today?
I'm in Los Angeles, California at my kitchen table.
Nice.
And,
So today we're going to talk about many things. We're going to talk about women surfing. We're going to talk about your career, surf, a lot of other stuff. But the first question that I have for you is, in your opinion, what is the most important thing in surfing?
to have the most fun. I think to me, surfing, the most important thing is to have the best time you possibly can. It's about like really enjoying nature, enjoying how special riding a wave is, and just enjoying an opportunity to put the whole world behind you and to just be in that present moment.
Exactly. I totally agree with you, but only surfers know what you're talking about, right? People that, or people that live in water and do water sport, like when you are alone and there is the ocean, it's an amazing sensation, and definitely you must have fun, right? It's
That's it.
super.
It's about fun. If you're not having fun, maybe it's not, maybe going and resetting your reason for being out there is a good opportunity, because really it's such a place of joy.
Definitely. And, like talking with some surfers, pro surfers during this podcast, basically some of them, they quit just because it was too much, like pro tour, and they were not having fun anymore. So they said like, okay, you know what? I want to surf to have fun. I don't want to surf just like to compete and have the stress, So I guess fun is the backbone of all of us surfer, right? No matter which kind of pro or like normal, if I want to say, right? I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that like the joy of surfing and the fun of surfing can be like a North Star. So maybe if you lose your way and you lose your like reason for starting surfing in the first place, to just go back to your North Star is an opportunity to like recenter yourself and your intentions of being in the water and what you're there for, so that you can always go back to that place of joy.
I like the definition of North Star. When starts your love for longboarding?
Longboarding was the first, the first way that I entered the water, really. Growing up in Los Angeles, but in the valley. So I didn't grow up by the ocean. I grew up inland. So for me, just getting to the beach was like the best thing ever. And then when I was going to the beach, I started longboarding because I was doing junior lifeguards, which is a program for kids. And we learn about the ocean and we swim and we run on the beach and we learn about the riptides. And at the end of each day, it was like free surf. And there was only maybe 4 longboards. They were like foam longboards, and there was no leashes. And basically, there was like many kids, maybe 15 kids, and only 4 or 5 surfboards. So you would just wait in the shore and somebody would fall and you would run, and whoever gets the board first could ride it until they fall and lose it. So that was really what first got me into surfing, and we were riding longboards, and the closest beaches to me were perfect point breaks, like Malibu or C Street. I lived in the valley and in between the two, so I had Leo Carrillo, which is a perfect point break. I had Malibu, or I had, C Street up in Ventura, or I had Rincon. So all these perfect point breaks. And, if you're on a short board, for the most part, you're not having that much fun because there's like perfect small waves and many people on the longboard. So it was, really seemed kind of destined that I would ride a longboard.
Definitely. I like the idea of a competition, with only 4 longboards and everybody's trying to chase his own turn, right? What was your first, let's say, proper longboard, like the one that you bought, or it was given to you and you were like so happy?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first longboard I ever had was that was my own was basically it was for Christmas when I turned 15. My parents got me a custom shaped 9-1 single fin.
Nice.
And I had like the hibiscus flower over the nose, the band, and it was a perfect balance, which was a surfboard shop up in the valley, and it was their shape. So it was a square tail 9-1 with like a big nose, and that was my first ever surfboard that was mine. And then from that board, I got my first Takayama, and that was the NR2, the tri-fin nose rider that I mostly rode as a single fin, but it's like single fin longboards were my jam. And I was really, I think, fortunate from having my first custom board from like, up in the valley at like a small surf shop to like then going to a Takayama. Like that was like, going straight to the Cadillac, straight to the Rolls Royce from the little like dune buggy,
Exactly. Of course, Donald Takayama is king of longboard and longboard shaping, right? So yeah, definitely. Wow.
I was very grateful for that, and it was like it really, riding his surfboards and because like I had my first board and then a year and a half later I got that other board from Donald, and it was like definitely really helped to shape me as a surfer, having such beautiful equipment to ride.
What do you remember of Donald? You met him personally, right?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with Donald when I was young. He was like a big mentor to me. And I was actually living in Oceanside for a few years because I was just 1 mile from his shop. So, I would surf with him 2 or 3 times a week or when the waves were good. And, we'd always be driving the coastline and he would tell me about stories. And I was always at the shop, So I feel very fortunate that I got to spend a lot of time with Donald as a mentor and kind of like, a second father in a lot of ways, He really taught me so much. I learned so much from him.
So what would be the key learning like from Donald? If you had to pick one, one thing that you will...
I think one of the things that was like so important that Donald had was like he was really about, he brought that like Hawaiian energy of like aloha, that like beach boy mentality. It's like whoever walked into the shop, he would give them time. Whoever it was, whoever showed up for a surf, he was always bringing so many people together to surf. It's like he'd call me, he'd call like all these people, and all of a sudden you get to the beach and there's like 10 different people at the beach all surfing. And then he would take us all to lunch after. And then all of us are sitting there eating lunch and we're all laughing and having a good time. So I think the thing that, he really taught me was about bringing people together. And like sharing that joy, going back to talking about joy. It's like, it was fun to go surfing. Nobody was in competition. We were celebrating. We were all riding waves together and all these people are coming together and we're laughing and we're getting party waves. And no matter what, Donald would get the best wave. He would sit super far out the back and he'd wait for those couple bomb sets. He'd ride them all the way to the beach and then he'd get out and we'd all be frothing around out there. And then he'd take us all to lunch. So he was really about community and he really exemplified what people say, like people say aloha but he like embodied that and what I feel that aloha means in a deeper level and what it really is. About joy and community.
Definitely. And I guess like the surfing with aloha, right? That is like the essence of surfing itself, right? Even if it's competition or it's just like normal sport or just being in the water. And speaking a lot of people now, almost 70 episodes. So it's so important, that we keep promoting the concept of surfing with aloha. It's the spirit
Absolutely.
of surf.
It's the spirit. And it's not just a way to bring to the water, it's a way to bring to your whole life. Like, okay, yeah, we can bring this to the water and we can share this in the water. And maybe the water is the place that like we learn to interact this way with community. And then bringing it to land and infusing it into every element of how you live your life is really, I think, like, the opportunity to be a surfer, to embody that and bring it to, because many people don't know that. And I think with surfing, we have an opportunity to experience that in and around the ocean, and then really kind of transition and bringing it back to our day-to-day lives, bringing it back to our families and our communities that may not have that connection with the water, is really when that aloha spirit and that energy really helps our communities in a bigger way,
How do you translate this spirit with a lot of in your brand?
I mean, really, it's about community. Again, it brings it back to that, in what I create with what I do with my wetsuits and in what we do with our, surfing and sound retreats. It's really about like really creating community and empowering yourself through community and really connecting and hearing from each other and sharing and feeling like we have that. It's like so many people, it's like, how can we be individuals in a pack, right? So we're a pack of people and we're all individuals, and honoring that. So really that's what I try to do, both with my company and both with the retreats that we lead, and as well as like in all aspects of my life. If I can bring that patience and that community and that cooperation and creativity, like all those things together, it's like I really feel like, as humans and as humanity, we're stronger together. So if we can really work together, and maybe we have some different ideas, but in all of our ideas, there's some like magic in them. So if we can bring all the best ideas together and create something that's like, I mean, there's just so much more opportunity when we work together. So I really feel that. And that's something that I stand for and want to promote, as well as a way to bring people together and as a vehicle and a vessel of stoke and aloha to bring people together.
Definitely. And while you were talking, I was thinking about kind of different eras of the brands, like in surfing, and I think it started everything as a community. You were talking about Donald Takayama, and it was shaping for his community. But then, like maybe in the 90s, 2000, we had like these huge brands where maybe the sense of community got lost because they were global. And now today, like surfers, they're looking for communities once again, because that's the true power of it, right?
That's it. It's like anything, it's like you have to go, like anything kind of like has its cycle, it's like started with community and then it kind of expanded to a place that maybe wasn't sustainable or supportive for what it started as. And then it starts to feel like a little fragmented, and then those parts fall away. And then it has an opportunity to come back to the core of what it was started for. So I think it's also like in so many ways, like the evolutionary cycle. It's like it expands, and it like how our universe is created. It expands and explodes, and it's like all this like amazing stuff. And then you go back to like the nucleus of like what kind of started it. So I think that's really where we're at. It's like we've seen and we're witnessing all these giant brands like falling apart. Yeah. Because they can't sustain themselves at that level. And like the core of what they started for isn't intact anymore. And that's why like even brands like myself and these small brands that are really just like, speaking pure and true to like their community have an opportunity right now, I think, as well, to really connect. And also because I'm like one person and I have like two people that help me out, really, like I'm a small, very small. So because of that, I also have the freedom to connect. Where all these big brands, there's like all these people and it's like, too many cooks in the kitchen. Everybody's bumping into each other. And the amount of people you have to talk to for an idea to actually come out, it's like, it's just not sustainable in the same way. You just don't have that much of a direct line of connection.
Yeah, I agree with you. All things get filtered, and you lose the essence of maybe the founder's idea of the brand, or what initially they wanted to achieve. So I definitely agree with you. What was the defining moment of your career as a surfer?
I mean, I don't really think there was any defining moment of anything. I think everything has just been like an evolution, and everything's inspired everything else. And, I never really had like a definite moment, or even necessarily like, I was never a person that had a goal. Like, I never cared about competing. I never wanted to be a world champion. I was just surfing because it was fun. And I just started traveling because I got to travel. And the contests were just an excuse that I could tell my parents why I was traveling. And then I was very lucky to be at a very specific time in surfing culture that was like, it really gave me and afforded me the opportunity to travel. So, and I think really being a free surfer and having an opportunity to like hang out with Thomas Campbell and work with his films. It was more about like the creative process and meeting people and traveling and seeing the world that inspired me and inspired my surfing. And I think that I'm constantly going back to that core element of like why I surf. And I think it's like, gosh, like I look back and I'm like, wow, all of it was so amazing. And all of it continues to be so amazing. It's just like a different formation. So, I never really think I reached like some like pinnacle place, but because I didn't reach some pinnacle place, like it's always just been this epic journey.
Yeah, definitely. You were talking about like meeting a lot of people and meaningful meeting. Among all the surfers that you met, was there like a person particularly that a meeting that was particularly meaningful for you?
I mean, meeting Jerry Lopez and getting to surf with him. I mean, he's like, I think really truly embodies all that I'm like interested in his approach to life. Like he has a deep yoga practice. His surfing practice is part of that yoga practice. I think that like his way of looking at things and his way of like seeing things is very in line and inspires me and fuels me in what I'm interested in. So I think that meeting him is fantastic and was fantastic. And he's still like, I definitely hold him up on this, like, wow, I'm so inspired by you. And then I think I was very fortunate to grow up in a time of like meeting some of like, the real like inspirations of surfing and surf culture, like having an opportunity to know and surf with somebody like Linda Benson, who was the first woman to ever surf Waimea. Her and Donald were really good friends. And like that gave me like a really bird's eye view into that era of surfing that was so powerful, because they were really some of the pioneers surfing these waves for the first time, which was so interesting. Being in France and, just they used to have the Biarritz Festival. And the Biarritz Festival brought people like Nat Young, and then you have like guys like Nat Young, and you have like Rabbit Kakai. You have all these people that are just like legends in the sport, and you get to meet them and surf with them. I remember I was surfing without a leash one of my first times to France. I'm like 16 or 17. And I'm getting to surf with Jeff Hackman. And I was staying, with Jeff and his son, Ryan, and they were taking me around to surf all the waves in Guitry. And I remember I was surfing with no leash, and the lifeguard came to me and was going to take my board, and he's yelling at me in French. And I'm like a little kid. I have no idea what he's saying to me. And I'm like, why is he taking my board? I don't have a leash. Like, who cares? And then all of a sudden, here comes Nat Young, and he just starts yelling at the cop and grabs the board and hands it to me and is like, take off. And I just run away. So having an opportunity to like exist as a kid and surfing and seeing these like great legends and having interactions with them was really, really special, And so, and I think that, we also had like the time to really witness it, and it was like very young. There wasn't as many people doing it. So I'm very grateful for that time. And I just encourage, the kids, like the next generations, like pay attention to the people that came before you, because they really like helped set a pathway. And now like so many kids like don't know what's up, they're very focused on like a very small amount of time. And like you look at somebody like Joel Tudor, who really is like such a great surf historian. I think that's like one of the things that I think, as well as being an amazing surfer and being Joel, who is like so incredible and really kind of like paved the pathway for like all of us, like more modern longboarders, loggers, to kind of get out there in the world, and guys like Thomas Campbell. But what's really fantastic, one of the other fantastic things about Joel is he's a true surf historian. You know, he really spent time learning from these people and learning from the boards and like really like understanding, you know, what was happening at that time and why. So I think that's something that I want to like, I mean, kids are just like on TikTok and like doing all this shit. They're like looking at their phones. It's like, dude, look up, because like, and do some research, you know, like there's so much stuff that's so radical. And I really love it when some of the youth generation is really like, you know, paying attention to the past. You know, I mean, the women's surf pipeline for the first time ever this year in a contest. And that's amazing. Like in a big world-class CG contest, that was like a very massive event. And the thing that I realized was that a lot of those women were really honoring women like Rochelle Ballard and, you know, Megan Abubo, and like some of those girls that there was a very small few of them that paved the pathway for what the girls now are doing. And the girls now are just like incredible. It's like out of control what they're doing out in the big waves. And like, it's amazing. And also like, they all are honoring women like Kayala, who were out there charging before anybody cared, you know? And so, I mean, it's not like nobody cared. I'm just more saying that like, you know, but they're honoring those women. And I think it's important to really like know what helps set the pathway for you.
Yeah. You know, like, oh my God, you said so many things. I have thoughts like running. I think, yes, one important thing is that legends, you know, like, the legends of the past, in effect, we are still very lucky that they are living today, right? And
that's exactly it.
And if we don't take this opportunity to talk with them and to get their wisdom, you know, we are losing a great opportunity. In effect, is something that I try to do as well with the podcast, you know, talking with the legends of the past. I don't know if ever you had the opportunity to listen to Greg Knoll or episode or Joy Cabell.
Uh-huh.
My God, you know, it's like so much information, so much power, you know, and you know, I was telling to Greg Knoll how you were training, you know, that time, you know, and he was telling me, look, Alessandro, you know, like I was just like surfing all day, stopping for lunch for a peanut butter sandwich and going charging again. That was my training. No, like today, like no gym, no nothing, you know. And it was the bull. Or you have like Joy Cabell with all like his waterman experience, you know, from sailing, swimming, surfing, and then going in Aspen and snowboarding. Snowboarding? I said, like, really? At that time? Yes, snowboarding. I was like, okay. I don't know even if it existed. Maybe. Skiing. Okay. So, and you know, like, that's so precious. We can get quite a lot. And again, we go back to Spirit of Aloha, right? The juices are in that, in Jerry Lopez, for sure, right? So, and of course, all women surfing. I had the opportunity to interview in the podcast Vicky Durand. I don't know if you know. She wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know her. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
She wrote this amazing book about her mother and surfing Maha in 1967. It was like, wow, you know, and piloting a plane, you know.
Yeah. It's so cool. Yeah, there's just so much wild stuff, and it's important, you know, to learn about that, because I think it's just like, you know, I mean, it's opened my life up to being like, wow, that's so radical, you know? And so it's cool, you know. I think the kids, it'll keep them more engaged, and it will just inspire more from them to like know where stuff came from.
Exactly. Less TikTok and more listening maybe will help everybody, right? Listening to the right people.
That's it. Look up and listen, you know? And it's like a good motto.
Exactly.
For the generation.
So we talked about women surfing, and okay, quite recently, like we reached parity in the price level of women surfing, but is an achievement. But what, in your opinion, is next to achieve? What is the next thing that must be achieved in competitive women surfing?
I mean, I guess for everything, it's like, like truly equal prize money and truly across the board for everything and truly equal equality in all forms, in time in the water, in exposure, in all those things. So I think like really that's the next thing. Like, there's been so many leaps and bounds and strides forward in a lot of ways. So I think like true equality across the board for all things is like really the next place to go, and really hold and not have it just be like, see, we're equal this time, but like really have it be something that's like truly woven through the fabric of surfing culture across the board.
But if you had to put like another brick towards the journey of equality, which one would you pick something, or it's more a general topic?
It's like there's already been enough bricks put in place, and like at this point it's like, dude, just like full like blanketed equality across the board for all matters of interaction within the surf culture and the surf world, financially, like, economically, in like how they like actually like equate, if there's only 3 or 5 girls actually being able to make a living from this, but then there's all these other guys making a living from it, but all these girls are like working 5 other jobs just to get on the tour. That's not equal. Even though there is one contest that has equal prize money, it's not actually like blanketed across the actual, because at the end of the day too, like the women's brands are what for the most part is pulling in the money. But then they're paying all these guys to surf, but they're not paying equally the amount of women to surf. So I think true equality actually like trickles down. It's not just like one venue and this contest has like equal prize money. It's like, well, how many of these top 16 women in the world are actually making a living surfing?
Yeah, quite straightforward and pragmatic, I would say, right? And I just finished to read She Surf, the book.
Oh, cool. Like,
you are also in the book, but I think it gives a great perspective of all the challenges that women surfing today have still to conquer, right? And is equality in pay, but also equality in treatment, and as well in society. There was the first Moroccan woman champion or surfing in that book. There was the Indian, and all the difficulties that they have, in their society, and is quite relevant. It's a very powerful book. I really like. I really love reading it.
Beautiful, yeah, and like that's it. It's like surfing is like a subculture of a subculture, right? So there's surfing. And then like, so what happens within surfing is also like relatable to that in the larger world. And I think like the world is shifting for the better. And like, so it's about just like kind of like being proactive and making sure that it's actually like, because what happens in surfing is going to like trickle out into the rest of the world and vice versa, so, but it's also like, well, surfing's like a smaller sphere than the rest of the world. So the faster that surfing and surf culture and lifestyle can really like set a precedence, then the rest of the world will see that and maybe transform faster. So I think that there's like opportunities there in kind of like this macro, micro kind of like holographic understanding of like, cultures and humanity and shifting and all this, like, absolutely.
How cool will be if the world looks at the surf culture and is able to change because of the surf culture. I think that will be a biggest achievement than doing Olympics in Tokyo, right? It's like, it's going to be so powerful, right?
That's it, man. That's it. Aloha. If everybody could live with aloha, that would be an awesome way to, influence the world.
Definitely. What's next for your brand, and what are your future projects yourself? If you're working on something particularly right now?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we're just like working hard to make a new collection and to really have, better quality, elevated product line that is more sustainable and also available and more like we have like a big online presence. And really what I'm trying to do now is just make it more available to, a wholesale demographic and getting it more in shops and just getting it more readily available. And, my big dream is just like giving back more, and by having it access to like create wetsuits out of more sustainable materials in a more mindful, earth conscious way, kind of like we're able to do more good and make sure that more consciously created suits are out there, which also in turn pushes the big factory, which also in turn pushes the big companies, but also gives us more of a presence and more of an opportunity to show up, for the world. It's like we're 1% for the planet company. How many of the big surf brands are that? It's like not many. Patagonia is, but that's it. It's like, well, shoot, man, like we're doing all this stuff. Like and why 1%? Why not 5%? So that's like what I want to do. Like I want to get to a place of doing 5% give back. And so, it's just like I'm trying to grow in a way that is ethical and really sticks by, my moral standards of how I want to exist. And it really doesn't exist within like a business structure and model. So I'm really trying to understand how I can actually create this in this world and then also be like an opportunity to like, be like, well, this is possible. Like everybody says, oh, you can't do that. And like, why would you do, it's like, well, no, like we can do it. We can do it together. So yeah, I think right now for me, it's just like I'm trying to learn and grow and expand in a conscious way and really, take my values and really, grow in a way that keeps my integrity at its core, always going back to that as a North Star. And I feel like it's been done before. Obviously, there's like beautiful, examples of it, like companies like Patagonia. But, it's like, oftentimes things get to a point where they grow so massively that it's hard to sustain that. So it's like, I really want to grow to a place that sustains that. And also as we grow, dedicates more of that towards back to the earth and back to, it's like, I feel like we're at this very interesting time and we have a lot of opportunity. And at the same time, it's like a lot of necessity in making big moves quickly.
Definitely, I also like a lot of the revolution of ULEX, for instance, in wetsuit, and everything that Patagonia developed. No, you don't?
No, I mean, I think ULEX is another, none of it's like better than the other. Like just because it's ULEX doesn't mean it's better for the earth, Actually, like it's a way forward. I think they're all way forwards. And I don't think the answers are right in front of us yet. It's like ULEX, you're still taking trees from the earth. Just like with limestone, neoprene, you're still taking limestone from the earth. Like you're still taking from the earth. Is it regenerative? What's the end of life cycle? So I think that there's just like, there's a lot of opportunity there to continue growing. And I don't think anything is the answer. That's how I feel personally.
Yeah. Okay. No, I agree with you. Sorry. No, there is a lot of research going on. And yes.
It's pushing forward, you know what I mean? But I think it's like, it's like, oh, it's ULEX, it's sustainable. Well, is it? You're still taking from the earth in a way. And what's the end of the life cycle? Is it last longer than other suits? Like, it's like, is it perform just as good, if not better? So I think there's all these ways to keep pushing. And because there's stuff like that coming out and new materials like that coming out, there's more opportunity to keep pushing in that direction. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't think anybody's figured it out yet, Yes. Like if we can dissolve a wetsuit with mushrooms and turn it into like beautiful, culture soil, like that sounds like a dream, but maybe that's possible soon. They're starting to make surfboards out of mushrooms or trying to, So I think that like, it's like, okay, cool. ULEX or more limestone based that's sustainably mined. Like they're all kind of like within the same realm. They're not really like the limestone, the ULEX, like it's all kind of in the same realm. I really feel it's like, but how do you get to like that next level? And I think it's all moving that way.
Okay. Yeah. Touche. As they say in French, like in effect, you're right. the absolute best, it would be totally something that has totally like impact.
Totally something like, what can we do? Like, are we able to like 3D print suits out of like, are the suits able to kind of like actually like sequester carbon as we paddle through the water? Like how oysters filter water. Can we make wetsuits that filter water? So when we're actually out there surfing, we're doing better. Like that would be rad. Do the bicycles in the gym power the gym itself, the lights?
Yeah. No, definitely.
Like how create shit in that way. And I know it sounds like some far out future stuff, but like, I'm like, yo, like that would be amazing. I don't know how to do that, but I want to say it because as I say it, maybe someone somewhere is like figuring it out,
I saw the other day, this guy that invented, or I don't know, maybe it was already there, in the normal bicycle is putting air filters. So basically the bicycle going in the city, if they purify the air. You need a lot of bicycle, right? But nevertheless, it's something, like we need those kind of idea, like out of the box.
Out of the box ideas, like let's get wild, and that's why like I love to dream big and just even say it, because maybe somebody's going to hear this and they're going to be a scientist and they're going to have the opportunity to actually like put it in there, like, whoa, amazing, So I think there's a lot that's possible. And I think we're just starting to scratch the surface, not even.
Definitely. Cool. So we finish our interview with a short Q&A session, very short. Okay. Please answer first thing that comes up to your mind, okay?
Perfect.
The best surfboard that you ever ridden?
Oh, man. Model T.
Favorite shaper?
Donald and Dane Peterson is now making my surfboards, and he's a longtime friend of mine, amazing shaper, and he's making stuff that like is just like interestingly super innovative. So, contemporarily Dane, before Donald.
Personal question, favorite song?
Ooh, favorite song. Gosh. It's hard for me, man. Favorite song.
Kind of music, if you don't have like a favorite.
Yeah, more like favorite bands, like I love Pink Floyd, I love the Grateful Dead, and lately I've been listening to a lot of like ambient music.
Okay. Favorite surf spot?
Ooh, I would say definitely some of the point breaks that we scored with Thomas in New Zealand.
Your favorite surfer of all time? I think...
Surfer, probably just because he's so groovy and I love the lines he draws, is like Rob Machado.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, he's been the first guest of the show. So amazing.
He's a beautiful surfer.
Last question I ask everybody. Has nothing to do with surf or surf culture or aloha. I want to know your best relationship advice.
Best relationship advice, listen.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Yeah, don't take anything personally ever.
Yeah. If we all be able to listen, the world will be changed dramatically, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thanks a lot for being with me on the show today, and I look forward to talk to you very soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Later.
Bye. Hi, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed our today's episode. If you want to know more about us, please follow www.thetempleofsurf.com and all our social media. Mahalo!